this video, I'm going to be showing you how to get started with YouTube's API and some basic uses with it. All the links will be in the description below. To get started, you head towards Google's Developer Console. Then once you log in for the first time, it's going to ask to accept the terms and conditions. Accept that. You might need to reload the page. And then you go create a new project. Name it whatever you want. Once your project is done loading, click on the API library link. Scroll down all the way up to YouTube Data API version 3. Click on that. Then click on Enable to enable YouTube API. Now we're going to create our credentials. So we're going to click on the Create Credentials button. And then we're going to fill in all our information. For the API that we're going to be using, it's the same as before. YouTube Data API version 3. Then the source from which we're going to be calling the API from will vary from person to person. In my case, it's going to be Windows. Then the data we'll be accessing is generally going to be public data, so click on that. Then click on what credentials do I need. We don't need any more credentials, and now we got our API key. Now save this on a safe place where you can easily access it as we move on to coding with the API. Then you're going to want to open up your text editor. I'm going to be using Atom. And once it's loaded, you're going to want to make the base files, meaning HTML and the JavaScript file. First I'm going to close these windows. We're going to call the HTML file index.html, and the JavaScript file we're going to call yt.js. And then we're going to stick the base for the HTML. And in order to connect the JavaScript, we're going to add in a script under body, the type text JavaScript, and then connect it through source yt.js. And then since we're going to be using jQuery, we're going to want to import it. So we're going to search up for the import jQuery. I'm going to go to the W3 Schools documentation, scroll down, and get the import that fits you. I'm going to be getting the Microsoft CDN, and I'm going to be sticking it inside head. And now to test that it's all working, we're going to add an h1 tag, type in hello, and then use the function for adding a style to the HTML from jQuery called h1 called .css. We're going to make it the color red. And now to check, we're going to open the file up in a browser. And it's working perfectly. Now, before we get started to coding out the API, we're going to want to open up the YouTube official documentation for it. To API, which is located at developers.google.com. Then head towards guides. Then on the left side, click sample requests, and this has all the information you need to get started with the YouTube API. So now with that being said, we can start coding. What we're going to be creating is an API program that's going to get a video depending on the query that we pass to it. And then we're going to be portraying it on an iframe. So to start it off, we're going to add an iframe in the HTML. We're going to be removing all these attributes. Since we're going to be adding the source through the jQuery, and then to identify, we're going to add a class. We're going to label it query vid, and then we're going to stick that onto the h1 tag to make it clearer. And then the function that we're going to be using is called get JSON, and then we're going to be sticking the first parameter, which is a link. Now before moving on, I highly recommend that you download the JSONView extension to Chrome. That way it's much easier to read and just discover what an API does and how do you utilize it. In order to do that, you're going to want to stick JSONView into Chrome, and you should find the extension. It should be one of the first things, and the one that has this logo labeled JSONView you're going to want to add from Chrome. I already have it, so I can't add it, but all you're going to want to do is just add to Chrome, and that's pretty much it. And now for the link, you're going to want to head back to the documentation, and as you can see, all of these examples stick in a base URL, which really is just supposed to stand in place of this URL right here. So we're going to start off by inputting this URL, and the example that we're going to be using is the query example, which we can find right down here. We're going to be sticking this towards the end, but first we're going to clean it. We're deleting these unnecessary enters, and then we're going to be sticking climate plus change. Note that I stuck in the plus rather than a space because this is a link after all. And then you're going to stick your API key, and now we're going to add it to the URL. Now that we have this entire URL, you can put it into your browser, and you're going to see something that looks like this. And what this is going to help you do is help you navigate through their API, and in the way that it's ordered, it's usually ordered starting off with a dictionary, and it sometimes will have lists inside, so you're going to pay attention to the way each section of the code ends. So in our case, we're just going to be wanting to get this video ID. What this video ID is what shows up at the end of a YouTube video. For example, for this Jedi Fallen Order trailer, you can see that it has this ID towards the end. So say if we replace that ID with this ID over here, we're going to get something related to climate change. As you can see right here, it is related to climate change. So what we want to do is just get the starting parts of just the way that a YouTube video starts with this string right here. We're going to be adding this here just for later reference. Now we're going to be getting back to the function. So what you want to do afterwards is stick in a function with response inside. It doesn't matter what you stick into the function name, and then but you have to stick response in here, and then you're gonna want to set a var link, set it equal to this, and then we're gonna want to add our pretty much coordinates to getting to this video ID. So in order to get to that, we're gonna have to stick in response, just to eliminate that. We're gonna stick in response dot, since the first thing that shows up is a dictionary, we're gonna stick in response dot items. And then, since the second thing is an array, we're gonna stick in 0 for the first item, and then we're gonna stick in, since it is an array, we're gonna put in dot ID, and then since we got another array, we're gonna stick in dot video ID. Now in order to test what the link is gonna be returning, you can just stick in an alert, and now return to this, and it's returning this link. Let's check what it returns. it's returning the same website that we got before when we stuck in just the ID. So now that we know that now that we know that we're accessing the right thing and that we're returning the right link, we can just stick in this link into the iframe tag as the source. How we're going to be doing this is by using the jQuery function. Let's look at the class. We labeled the query vid. We're going to stick that in there. And then for the attribute src, we're going to set equal to link. Now, before we move on, I made a mistake up here where I was trying to stick in a normal link into the iframe, which you cannot do. Instead, you need to modify it to a degree, and the way that YouTube does that is they put, instead of this watch v equals, they stick in an embed slash, and with that being done, it should be working now. And there we go. You guys have now created your YouTube API. Now that concludes our video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed, and any criticism is welcome. Thank you and have a good day.